On the podcast today, we have Ain Khan, originally from Malaysia. She worked for many years in the TV industry as a professional. After the sad passing of her father, she realised she needed a change. She moved here to Perth, Western Australia, to study film, first at college, now at university, with the hopes of taking a PhD back to Malaysia, setting up her own school and moulding the minds of the young over there to tell entertaining and engaging stories. We spoke about the cultural differences today, on how the difference between Australia and Malaysia and how that's affected Ain's outlook on life and her art form. Art imitating life, life imitating art. Ain Khan, how are you?
I'm good.
Finally, I get you on.
Yeah.
So, for people that don't know who you are, and a lot of people do, you're a TV professional based in Malaysia, but you're now here in Australia and you're studying. So tell us about where you grew up and what your childhood was like.
Ooh.
Because also coming from an Asian country, it's quite different hearing about someone who grew up through the education, then was good at education, then became a creative in that culture. But not just that, but making actually a good living out of being a creative, especially within the world of TV. Tell us about that. Was that a hard decision when you were growing up?
I think growing up, I'm always a creative. I wouldn't say education. It is important in like Asian culture. Like you have to be smart somehow, and then like. I remember, I think I really take things seriously when I was about 15. And then, the grades got a little bit better. And then I felt like there's so much more to life, because at that age, you experience a lot more rather than when you were a kid. And then, but I've never really actually wanted to do anything else but creative. I've always wanted to be a fashion designer. I don't know why, like a stylist or whatever. Maybe because my mom, my mom is multi-talented, and a lot of the thing that she's talented about is always the thing that you would expect a mother or a female to be good at, like cooking, sewing. Yeah. She's like good at all those things. So the thing about her is she will teach me and my brother both like how to do basic things like cooking or whatever it is. So my mom, she's always growing up, she will teach us how to do basic things of sewing and cooking or whatever it is. And a lot of the thing that she's done, sewing is like one of the things that I had an interest in. And that's why I think fashion design and styling and things like that.
Sure.
Yeah, but I never actually went into it. I finished high school, didn't want to do anything much with my life. I don't know why, but I think it was just young and immaturity, I guess. And then I was looking for quick solution. So I went into working. I was a kindergarten teacher for 4 years old. For about a year. I was 18.
Out of school?
Yeah, out of school, like 17 years old.
So you don't need a qualification for that?
Not really, like a teacher assistant.
Oh, okay.
So you were teaching, but like also teachers. Yeah, I was 18, I think, 17, 18. And then and then it's like a year, it was like a summer job. So, it ended, and then I told my dad, I said, I don't know what I want to do. And my dad said, well, do you want to go into finance or things like that? And then I said, I don't know. And then my father, in a way, like put me in this, asked for a job in his company. He's working with a company back home. And then I was a purchaser. And then I went into finance a little bit.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Is it hard, in an Asia? Did you ever feel that pressure as a school student to do absolutely the best you could and to get into a good university? Did you get that pressure from your teachers or your parents, because, you know, when you turned around and you said, look, I didn't really want to do much because I was out of school, really young. It's not, I relate to that. And I think a lot of people in Western cultures relate to that. But you hear a very different side story coming from an Asian student. Like they know what, I've got to get into this university because I've got to be either this, what their parents want them to. I want to be a doctor or this or this. Or this. You didn't get any of that?
There was a lot of pressure, but I didn't care.
That sounds like you, right?
I was just doing what I wanted. No, I was never a person who can be persuaded into to do things that I didn't want. I think I was very
stubborn,
strong-headed. Yeah, I would call strong-headed, not stubborn.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and then somehow my brother graduated college, and he was in computer engineering. So he has always been wanted to become an engineer and things like that. So I told my parents, if you want good grades, if you want a perfect child, just go look at my brother, because he will give you all that. You know, you can't, with me, it's not going to happen. So my brother finishes school, and my father is a footballer. So it's not, I wouldn't say well known, but people know him of who he is. So my brother finishes school, and one of my uncle was a TV presenter. He was also a footballer. They were best friend and become very close friend with their family. And then he saw my brother's resume and was saying like, oh, I didn't realize that our kids are all grown up and looking for jobs. So he said to my dad, can I have one of my brother's resume? So my father said, yeah, whatever, take it. So this uncle of ours went because he was a TV presenter. So obviously he took the resume and said, hey, my nephew need a job, you know, this is his resume. They got a call. So my brother got like an internship or like a contract to work for about 6 months. The contract in that company is always 6 months. It's like the biggest pay TV in Malaysia. So at that,
what's the company called?
Astro.
Okay.
So in I think 2003 or 2005, something like that. So my brother was there, and then my brother always said to me like, oh my God, come live with me. The thing about my brother is I think that he cannot live far from me, but we don't necessarily talk to each other every single day. If me and my brother eating at dinner table, we're probably not going to say anything to each other.
Okay.
But he liked the fact that, oh, she's there. You know, I can sure. just see that she's there. And then somehow he convinced me to move to the big city. And then
from where?
There's a smaller city in Johor Bahru.
In Malaysia.
So I was raised in Johor Bahru, and then I moved to Batu Pahat. It's like where my mom was born, because the finance company that I was working had a small finance department that they
sure.
Yeah, so it's like I was transferred. So I was transferred there for about, I told my brother, I said, I like it here. It's simple. It's in the village. Like nobody know me. It's amazing, you know? And I like the simple life. And my brother said like, oh my God, there's so much more to life. Like, why don't you try other things? And then I did. So with the same uncle that gave my brother the job, I asked him casually. I didn't ask him like seriously. I was like, oh, you know, Alif was saying about this job, blah, blah, blah. I feel like I want to apply. And he's like, yeah, sure. Just tell me if you're interested. You don't even have to give me a resume. I said, okay, it's weird. And I never actually realized like Nipo baby was never a term when I was doing it at that age.
Sorry, what?
Nipo baby. Like it's
Nipo baby.
Yeah, Nipo baby. Like how people said Paris Hilton is a Nipo baby. A person who's born in a certain family and then get their way in like easier with connection. Okay. You get.
Is this because your uncle was quite high up in there?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So I never actually realized that until I see how hard it is people to get into media. And I always say like, oh my God, media choose me. I didn't choose media. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's literally privilege.
Oh, okay.
So like I said, I wasn't qualified. I wasn't I didn't have any background in media comparatively to all the people that was doing the work at that moment. I was too young, too brave. I think stupidity was part of it, but I decided to just, give it a go. And I told my mom, I said, I'm going to give this a go for 6 months. And if I fail, I fail. Who cares? I got nothing to lose. I'm 19 years old. Who cares? I got all the time in the world. And if I want to do something crazy, this is the time for me to do something crazy. And then, I did. So I went for the job, which when I went for the interview, the both of us, the one that interviewed me and me, the both of us know that this job is already yours. It's not actually a real interview, which is a bit sad. I don't know. It's a bit that whole situation of like privilege and using.
Hey, it happens.
Yeah, it
so
happens.
Why not be on the positive side, the negative side? So I wouldn't be complaining. But I didn't know your brother was in there first.
Yeah. So my brother, he was the Wheel of Fortune, came to Malaysia,
Really?
and then they had to figure out how to use the computer of like the words and the text on the screen. So my brother learned how to do that. So he was then become that person. But the way my brother does it in that company, even though it's media, he really is an engineer at heart. So he then become broadcast engineer.
Sure.
And has become always become a broadcast engineer. But for me, I went in as a director assistant for TV program, news, game show, sports event, concert, you name it. So I was there for about 2 years. And then in that 2 years, someone from post-production, my boss, wanted a coordinator. So his department has gone a little bit bigger, and so he couldn't do all the admin work for post-production. So when I get that job was actually quite funny as well, because I was just a kid, I was I think about 2021, and I was just doing concert week after week, and it was fast turnaround. You don't even have time to think about anything else but just studio life, because it's different from film. Film is longer pre-production, and even shooting it take longer, but broadcast is literally shooting live events. So
because you're working within time slots as well.
Yeah,
that's been paid for.
So it's very fast turnaround. So I didn't even consider or think about like looking for other jobs. But because I work a lot with editors and sound engineers, and then I think he was like, hey, do you know anyone who could do good with very organized, very whatever. I don't know what they said, but then I got that this person called me and said like, oh, I heard about you from the editors. Can you come see me? Because I have probably a job offer for you. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know anything else but this. Because for me to learn broadcast, where I don't know anything about broadcast, took me, a couple 1 year to be good at what I was doing. I think at the very least I was fair at my job. And then what he was offering, I couldn't say no. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but it was better pay, better like you become a permanent instead of a contract worker in the company. So like a permanency is like your medical is, taken care of and things like that. So I was like, okay, sure. I told him, I said, fine. I remember this so well. I was so scared at how much he was offering. I said, can you cut my payment to like a little bit less, because I don't need that much money.
Oh my God.
When I was 21. But
just so the audience knows, you don't come from a wealthy family.
No, I don't.
It was just something.
A well-known father, I would say, but not wealthy. Father. Yeah.
So it wasn't you were turning down money because you were very wealthy.
No.
You were turning it down because you felt a little bad.
Yeah.
Or
I don't know what.
You didn't know that you were worth that? You didn't think you were worth that money?
I think it was, I did not know what the responsibility comes with that money.
Okay. Yeah, and there's always something, right?
There's always something.
Yeah, okay.
So I told him, I said, okay, he was doubling what I was getting at that time. And even at that time, I was getting quite a bit.
Sure.
For people who work in media, of course.
Yeah.
At that time, not now, but at that time. And then I told him, I said, can you pay me a bit less? And he was like, no, because the job is a lot. You will not see in the first 6 months, but you will understand,
The pressures that come with it.
Yes. So I said, okay, fine, sure. And I told him, I said, I don't know what this job is, but I promise you I learn really quickly and I try to do my very best. And if the moment you feel like I'm not the right fit, just let me know and let me go, because I don't want to be in a position where I keep trying and then failing, And then I stayed there. And the total of me working in media in that position was 9 years, but then the whole thing was about 11
Really?
years. Yeah.
Wow. So that's how you got into media.
That's how I get into media, most of the time in post-production. But yeah, it's still, the problem with that job is it's you looking at other people doing creative things and you're creative at heart, but at the same time you're like, the lifestyle is way too good to not,
That must be hard, right?
It is. It is.
It's hard. Even I think it's easier working in a corporate job when you're not surrounded by creativity.
Yeah.
And then coming home and being creative, in your time off, rather than being surrounded by creatives, but your job itself is not creative.
Yes. At one point I told my boss, I said, you need to give me something outside from what I'm doing, because there's nothing that this job can teach me anymore. I'm literally at my end because it no longer provide me something for me to grow, something for me to learn. There's no problem that people can come with a problem. Like in post-production, you have a lot of problems. Like, oh, I shot this in SD, I want to make it into HD, things like that. And then this format is from Japan, I want to make it, convert them to like Malaysian standard format. There's nothing that you can come to me and ask me and I don't know how to fix that.
So it wasn't a challenge anymore?
Yeah.
So you've lost that challenge?
Yeah.
So that was my next question. Why give all of that up? And not just give it up and go to another industry, but give all of that up and come to Australia. At how old? How old were you?
When the first time I came here, I was 31, I think.
31. So you left, you didn't know anyone here?
No.
You left, and not only that, you sold an apartment, right?
I sold everything.
You sold everything.
Everything that I've made in that 10 years.
To come here and study. Is that just because you'd lost, not only you lost that challenge, you lost the creative spirit, do you think?
I had this idea in my head that I wanted to continue studying, but I also don't know what to study in. And sometimes I feel like, should I? Because at one point in your life, you're like, why do I need to progress or do more? Because I'm comfortable, But at the same time, I feel like this comfortable life is not for me, because I'm a person I like to know new things.
Sure.
And very adventurous and things like that. Not adventurous, but like, you get what I mean. Like, I like to grow. I don't like to be in the same position for so long. And then I asked my mom, I said, what do you think if I studied this, studied that? Psychology was like one of it. I don't know why. Like everybody's like, every time they want to study and at an older age, it's always psychology.
I know. Because they realize how fucked up they are. So they're just like, I need to understand what I'm going through.
I need to understand me.
Yeah. So I'm going to study so I can bring a Freudian view on my sociopath views on life. I know. Isn't that true though? Like,
it is.
How many people, I can think of already at least 4 people I know that want to study psychology or have studied psychology in later life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like somehow life is not, understanding life of all bad experience is not enough for you to like dig deeper and try to fix yourself, So I was like, my mom said, are you sure? And then somehow in that, I can't remember what was the timeline, but my father passed away in March and that idea of like, I want to study has been, I've talked to my mom like 6 months or a year before that, but I've never actually do something. But I feel like my dad passing is, in a film,
catalyst.
People say inciting incident.
Yeah, inciting incident.
Yeah. So
do you think it was a distraction, a healthy distraction to get away from everything?
It was a coping mechanism,
Yeah.
which I didn't realize when I came back before COVID. I didn't realize that was my coping mechanism.
Sure.
Me going, sell everything. I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
I want to go away. I didn't realize that until I had to come back and still had to process the feelings.
Yeah, sure. Because it never goes away.
It never goes away. It gets not worse.
Well, grieving, they say you've got to go through because it will never go away. Like it could be 10 years later and you will have an event or something will happen in your life like that you'll end up bringing all those feelings and you'll have to go through it anyway.
Yeah. So and then I was, what is the other opposite of broadcast or TV? Still in media, still in film, still in
media,
audiovisual, I would say.
Yeah, sure.
And then I told my mom, I said maybe advertising and filmmaking, because I've never actually learned that part. And then my mom said, yeah, sure, why not? And then I found TAFE. It's literally...
Tell people what that is.
Oh, TAFE is a college in Perth, Australia. I mean, in Australia, around Australia. It's a institution for people who want to learn hands-on things. Okay, so like I was in film and TV and broadcast and things like that. So we'd learn everything from zero, every single aspect. So if let's say you're learning about lighting, if you're not interested in lighting, you still have to do lighting class. So
why the same industry?
Because I like it. You know what? No, because I felt like this is the only thing I know how to do. One of my like people who work in the industry, I wanted to change my career and I was asking her if her company was hiring. And she said like, why do you want to do this? You could have worked anything else. You could go into marketing, you could go into working in retail or whatever it is. When she said that, I got offended because I felt like I have found an attachment to the media industry somehow. And then I felt like, how could you say that to me when this is the only thing that I know to do? And I've done it for like 12 years.
Yeah, but maybe she was thinking you needed a change.
Yeah, maybe. But
so why Australia?
It was just random. It was nothing. I didn't even think about it thoroughly. I was just like, this is how much money I have. This is what I can afford. And this is what I felt not too far from my mom because she was growing old and I'm dealing with grief with my dad.
Sure.
So before Australia, I travel a lot in Europe and every single year I will go back any country in Europe. And then in 2014, I came to Perth. And then by 2016, I moved here. And my mom asked me, you've been quite a lot of places in this world and you picked Perth or Australia to study. Why not other European countries? I said, I don't know. Like, I love European country. But the first time I came here, I was like, oh, it's different.
It's different, but familiar. Close to Malaysia. So, I mean, one reason why I wanted to have a chat with you is I love stories of sea change. And I think it's also healthy for people to sometimes just pack up and go somewhere, another culture, learn that way. And often you hear about people going elsewhere. So I want to know, someone who's grown up in Malaysia, I mean, I've got a little bit of a bias towards Malaysia because my wife is part Malaysian. And but I'd like to know what differences there are. Like somebody coming from a nice lifestyle in Malaysia, coming to be a student in Australia, what are some of the challenges that you faced in the early years?
I think the first 6 months was rough because I always felt like I shouldn't be here. But somehow my friends make it easier. I had good friends at TAFE. Like people at TAFE was
Within the first 6 months?
Yeah, within the first 6 months. And that's why every single time people want to move abroad, I said make friends as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Because those other people are going to keep you afloat, because you will not survive if you don't know anyone. So I think the first 6 months was just me going to school. That's it, nothing else. But it was hard. I remember crying every single day on the bus because TAFE is almost every day. We go to school from 8:30 to about 4.
College, yeah.
College, yeah. So it's almost every day. And then I remember crying every day. And there's this one homeless guy in St. George's Street in front of the church. I love that man so much because every single morning I walk past him, he will say good morning, hello, or whatever. And then at one point I was like, the moment I see him, I have to wipe my tears because I'm pretty sure his life is so much harder than me. And here I am just crying like a spoiled brat. So I always like, no, you have to be okay. You have to say good morning to this lovely man. And that homeless man has been there for me for at least 3 years.
Have you seen him since?
No, when I came back, he wasn't there anymore.
Do you know, I often think...
But someone took a picture of him and posted on Instagram, like a photographer from Perth. And I told him, I said, thank you so much for like capturing this because he meant so much for me.
I often think, do you think those people are put there for you?
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you think you hear about, spirit guides, guardian angels, family relatives that have passed on. They're like, Ain needs this. Like he's there for you to get, and because here you are years later talking about him. I think everybody has stories like that.
Yeah.
At certain points of their life and their darkest moments.
Yeah.
A random person will come through and change everything.
Yeah.
I love those stories. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first 6 months was hard.
The first 6 months.
Because it was different, lonely, new
different,
place.
lonely. Even though when it's close, like Malaysia is 6 hours flight.
But it's a world away.
In a way, yeah. It's still different culture. Like Australia, that's the beautiful part about Perth. It's so close, yet culturally it's so different.
Well, how?
We're
in, when you're in the goldfish bowl and someone says, how's the water? And you're like, what water? We can't see the difference because we live here all the time, unless you've traveled a lot. And we both have.
Yeah.
But, what are some of the major differences between Malaysia and Australia for those who haven't been to either that are listening?
Malaysia are more colorful, I would say, vibrant, and it's more warm, like weather-wise. People are a lot nicer to stranger here, I guess. In Malaysia, it's like...
In Australia?
In Australia,
they're not, okay.
Yeah. But back home, I always say it's the heat. The heat that makes us just go by with our life because it's uncomfortable,
Well, the heat's different.
Yeah.
So Australia, we have a very dry heat and it's humid in Malaysia.
Yeah. And if you live long enough in Australia, you can see when Australians get cranky and when Australians are actually quite nice. So now...
because of weather?
Yes. Now everybody's just lovely because it's like, it's a bit colder, chilly, it's not that hot. The sun is still out. But when it hits 40, 38, you can see the crankiness in Australian, especially when you take public transportation.
Yeah.
Yeah. But back home, it's just humid. So I think it's because of the weather and how consistent it is.
So your monsoon, when are your monsoon periods?
Usually in end of the year.
End of the year?
Yeah, I think so.
Say monsoons, but it's actually quite nice at the same time, like because it will downpour for an hour or so and then it will stop. And it gets a bit muggy, but, but you get used to it when you're there, Southeast Asia.
Yeah, and I always feel like the moment when I move here, I think I explained this to one of my friends at TAFE. He was saying like, how was your experience being in a Western country? I said, before this, you guys are like window shopping.
Explain. What do you mean?
I only see you through a glass. like through TV.
Oh, okay.
I know of you guys. I know that you guys exist. I know a little bit of your culture, but through what television want to show me. I don't really know you guys, but now it's like one step in. Like I'm not actually in the shop. I'm still out from the shop, but I kind of know your struggle and who you actually are. So the Western world then become a little bit not close, still foreign to me, but it's, because they become my friends. Like I never really actually had friends who's outside from Malaysia who's
Was it more multicultural than you thought?
in Australia.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, I know a lot more of South Americans here. They're the most lovely people.
But it's only been, I'd say, in the last 10 years,
Really?
15 years. Yeah, because it's so far away, but we never got South American students back in the day, or Australia. And I think it's opened it up because the visas became so good.
Yeah.
And they were allowed to work here. Where in America, in the US, if they went to the US, their student visa prohibits them from working.
Yep.
So they can actually make a go of it here and work and study. And so we're seeing a lot more of that. Actually, speaking of that, while we're talking about international students, did you see that Australia has put a hold on international students coming in?
Yeah.
Did you hear about that?
Yeah.
I only saw it on the news the other day. Do you know anything about that? Or I know why. They're trying to control, because of the economy, the way the economy is going, lack of accommodation, jobs. A lot of that does go to the international students that come here.
Yeah.
But when they graduate, they'll tend to bring their spouses on, and then they'll. I think they're wanting to put a bit of a pause on that, not to stop it, but to put a pause on that.
Yeah.
To wait for the economy to sort of see where it's going to go before.
I think that's healthy in a way.
I do too, yeah.
Yeah, because
you also want to give, there's a lot of Australians that are not getting that rental property.
Yes, exactly.
And, and things like that. And it's not saying that you should be fair to of course we should be, but, it's, I think other countries would do the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, I heard that because I know that we survive off international students. My sister works for a university. I worked for a college. A lot of their income comes from international students. So as soon as I heard that on the news, I was like, how's that going to affect? And we've got a new university starting here in the city.
Yeah. Yeah. But here's the thing though. The market for rental is really bad.
It is. It's horrible. It's like any other. It's like London when I was there 8 weeks ago. It's very hard and very expensive.
Yeah.
France, same.
I don't know what it is, but it's like after COVID, everything becomes so much more expensive here. It's not quite exactly the same when I was at TAFE.
Because you were here before COVID and after COVID.
Yeah.
So tell everyone what you went back to Malaysia after you studied, and you came back. How many years later?
2019. I think about 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
And now you're studying your master's. Is it you're going to be doing your master's?
I'm gonna now. My course is because I always wanted to finish PhD, or at the very least I can teach.
Okay, that's the thing, because I know a lot of creatives listening to this. It's like you came from a professional industry, high paying job. You're coming to study as a film student. Like, why? We sort of know the emotional status of you didn't grow anymore. You weren't challenging yourself. You needed plus your father passing away. But why is it that you've got to get your PhD? Tell the audience. I know why, but why are you going through that?
Because as much as creative thing, the education is not important. It is important when you want to teach. Because if I know sometimes in university you don't get practitioner who have doctorate to teach in university, and then we complain like, oh, why don't they teach you when you're paying? Because those people that go into doctorate, sometimes they don't practice, but they have the certificate. It's sad.
It is.
But it is true.
Yeah.
So if you care enough about the industry and about your craft and you want to teach, then finish your PhD, because university need more people that have work experience and who are actually good at they're doing and know what they are talking about
that want to teach.
Yeah, because not a lot of people want to teach. A lot of creative doesn't want to teach. A lot of creative want to do. I'm not saying stop doing, keep doing, but if you want to teach, then
it's nice to have industry experienced people that also have a qualification to allow them to teach. And I remember speaking to you a while ago, and you always said, I didn't know, one, you were a kindergarten teacher, but also I remember you always saying that you wanted to go back and open up a school in Malaysia. When I spoke to you then, you also came from the point of view of you wanted to change the way stories were being told in Malaysia.
Yeah.
You wanted Malaysia to be on a more competitive stage to compete against countries like South Korea and Japan.
Yeah, at the very least, Asia.
At the very least, yeah. I mean, South Korea competing with Hollywood now.
Yeah.
So you wanting Malaysia, because they've got stories. Why weren't they telling those stories? Why do you think?
I'm going to get cancelled.
Not why. I mean, I'm not saying, look, they're not telling those stories, but as a whole, why do you think, what was stopping Malaysia from telling these gripping stories? Because they've obviously got the rich culture. Again, it's one of my favorite Southeast Asian countries. They've got a rich culture that they can draw on. Why aren't they drawing on it?
I think a lot of Malaysian, the problem with us is because we're so multicultural, we tend to westernized the way we tell story, or we try to let's see what Korea is doing and then do how Korean is doing it. The problem with this is the feeling of self-identity, the fact that we are so multicultural, we decide to tell Malaysian story Korean style. We try to tell Malaysian story Hollywood style. I feel like the fact that there is a good story, but you guys are voiceless. You don't use your voice. You don't utilize enough of who you are. Because why are you trying to do all this? Why are you trying to tell Malaysian story with other people's culture or how Korean shot their film? Why can't we figure out what's our style and then go from there? And I think number 2 is also skill. I'm not sure if it's skill or because it's funding or things like that. We don't necessarily give job to people who deserve it. We keep giving to the same people who telling the same story. And if I'm not,
because it's safe.
It's safe, change is something frowned upon in Malaysia. When I came back from TAFE, I worked again with the same company.
Astro.
Yeah. I went back to Astro, and then I was I would say I wouldn't say executive producer because I was hired as an executive producer, but I don't think I was doing executive producer job. So I don't know what that job was, but I was involved in drama series. And I felt like I was underutilized. Like you don't use me for the best of my ability. You just hire me and then ask me to do, just this is your task, just do it, rather than, let's see, what idea do you have? Let's see story that is way better. What.
But was that your job, or was your job at the time, I just need you to bring these people together to tell this story?
Not really. There's like a restriction where you don't really have the freedom to tell story. I think that's
okay.
I think the freedom and the change in freedom itself that wasn't allowed It's not restriction because of the company or because Malaysian viewers are not ready. I think our viewers has gone smarter. And if the story is really good, or if a TV program or drama series is really good, I don't have to necessarily keep watching TV to know that it's good. People will talk. My aunties, my uncle were like, oh my God, have you seen this? It's really good. And I'm like, okay, if the conversation is there, then I will go and watch it, because I'm not, I don't like to watch Malaysian drama series, but when it's good, people will talk and I will watch, and I will definitely appreciate the effort.
So there has been.
There's few that I like, and unfortunately the good one, they don't necessarily bring it back, which I don't know why. When you found something good, you should latch on it and then try to do.
Because it's got a cultural sort of awakening within the country, and you capitalize on that.
Yes.
Right.
Because the one thing that we talked about this last few weeks, we were saying that, when you inflict pain and show it in media, it become normalized. In Malaysia, there's this trend where apparently nowadays a lot of Muslim can marry this, right?
Oh.
Muslim men can marry more than one. Like they can have 4 wives.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So apparently a lot of the trend in Malaysia, when men marry another one, or when men have affair or whatever, our drama series become that as well. And now celebrities are doing it as well. So it become normalized. This thing should not be normalized. And drama TV series, I don't think should be that. You should not. It's like art imitating life. But now it's like, art imitating life. It's literally.
But that's what happens, Ain, right?
Yeah, but wouldn't you feel like.
Now, I have a lot of Muslim friends, right? And I always tease them that your husband's going to, don't disappoint him, he'll marry someone else. But now let's clarify a few things. You can't get married to a second wife unless you've got the approval of the first wife.
Yeah.
Okay. So you need her approval. But 2, it's
I don't know that religiously. Culturally, I would say yes, and by law in certain states in Malaysia.
Because Malaysia is quite a strict Muslim country.
Yes.
Okay. Am I right by saying with the marriage, it's accepted but not expected?
Yeah. Yes.
It's true, right?
It's true. And a lot of us don't realize the responsibility of it. We want the cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
You want to have second wife.
Most husbands would think one's enough.
True.
What's enough? So, oh my God! Can you imagine? Like, I've got to deal with this, and I've got to deal with that. And imagine having. I know I'm sort of joking a bit there, but yeah, that's a big responsibility. But so you're saying the art has sort of imitating that, and then it's now the art is affecting real life.
Yes.
So it's gone in a big circle.
Yes.
So art imitating life, life imitating art.
Yeah.
And so now the celebrities are imitating what they're doing within the storytelling world of Malaysia. Okay, I get you. So you want to influence the grassroots of Malaysia, like the kids, right?
Yeah.
Because you want to teach kids.
Yes.
And I think, I'm coming from the point of view because when you first came here, you were very close to intimate stories. You were telling me, all right? And it was about opening up, like Australians, like the English and the Americans and New Zealanders, we're very, we're an open book. We can put our heart on a sleeve and show it to the world. We can talk about our problems very easily around a table. I know because from an Asian culture, you tend to not share those things so easily. Not to say you don't, but not so easily around a table. Like, hey, Mum, today I was thinking about, kissing this girl, or, Mum, I lost my virginity yesterday. But kids would do that today.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad thing if you share that with your parents. But I know from being from an Asian culture and my wife and my friends, it's not easily it's not easily done, right? Being able to share very intimate and personal things. How is it with counselling there? Is it something that people know that's happening, but it's not in the forefront like it is in the US and Australia? And
I remember when I was in school, we know that we do have counseling on school, but it was something that we never go there. It's something that you avoid.
because it's looked at as a weakness.
Because it's so foreign.
So it is in that way. So getting back to my point, you're what you're wanting to do is get into the grassroots and be able to give an outlet to these kids, an escape, a creative escape to be able to express themselves.
Yeah.
And hoping that would filter up and filter down as if they do take on professions within the industry, stories will be able to get more. I one thing I didn't expect you to say before is they're telling it how a Korean would tell it. You talking technically or the way they tell the way storytelling's done?
It will literally be literal, because if, let's say, a drama series is working so well in Korea, they will buy the whole format and it exactly.
Oh no,
their
really?
version. Yes.
Have they done that?
Yeah, few.
So it's like a remake.
Yeah.
So it's like when Hollywood remakes a Korean film.
Yes, but even with remakes, we still have that Hollywood voice. We still have that Korean voice, you know? But in Malaysia, it's literally just taking it as it is, that's why I said, why can't we Malaysian tell Malaysian story and then find our own style? So I think there's like a gap on like skill as well, whether we are not skillful, whatever it may be, whether we need to be better writers, whether writers need to be more open on telling story. Like I had that problem, you know.
Yeah.
I was struggling for 3 years. I don't know what to write. I hate writing until this very day. And I still don't know how to convey story, my personal story, and be okay with like thousands of people watching it, you know. I have to get over it. And I think a lot of the time we Malaysian, it's like something we don't hang our dirty laundries for everybody to see. So it's always behind closed doors. If you have problem, it's always intimate. It's always you don't talk about it.
But that's a story in itself.
Yeah.
That's a great story in itself. That hidden secrets, right? Every family has them, sort of a thing. But one outlet of that can be the media. Like I always said, if you identify with even theme, which is why you tell the story, and there could be moments in there, but it's not a direct reflection on you, but there is part of you in the story in that way. So you're thinking in Malaysia, they need to, not need to, but just be able to be a bit more honest with who they are and reflect that within their films. And you don't think they're doing a lot of that now, or they are, but they're just still learning?
Yeah, I think all of us are still learning, even myself and I think everyone, even back home. But I feel like the mass media shouldn't be so gullible in what they put out. It has to be thoughtful.
Yeah, sure.
It cannot be the same problem over and over again, or the same storyline. Like now the trend is second wife, right? So the trend of second wife now have become cultural problem, because you see it so much on TV.
Yeah.
All the drama is doing it. At one point in Malaysia, it was like rude kids to their parents. Every single film, drama, whatever it is, the kids are just horrible to their parents.
Jeez, can you imagine that art imitating life over there?
Exactly.
You'd have to be pretty brave as a child, right? To talk back to your parents like that in that culture. Oh my God, you still get the belt.
Yeah.
Having Malaysia's a predominantly Muslim. Does that restrict a lot of the taboo subjects that people would do? So like which would happen. So like a relationship between a woman and a woman or a guy and a guy, right? Now, it does happen. It's not expected and it's sort of not accepted, right? I should say that there is expectations, but it's all underground. Could you, as a rebel filmmaker, see, already I'm getting that response. Could you, as a rebel filmmaker, tell that story?
LGBTQ story has always been in the forefront of Malaysian film and TV. So it's not something new. Of course, sometimes some films were made, which was amazing, but then it got into like censorship or whatever it is, and then sometimes years after that, then only got air because, you know, the acceptance and things like that. I think those kind of films or story is important, you know, so that we can navigate life a bit better. But yeah, it's not something foreign. We have seen a lot of.
Oh, that's good.
So yeah, it's not like as if you cannot ever make this type
Well,
of
you
story.
don't see. We wouldn't know that because you know we know also it can be quite strict because also there's films that are banned in Malaysia that were released everywhere else.
Yeah,
and I'm thinking, no, like I'm talking. I think there was a Disney film or one of the
Prince of Egypt.
Prince of Egypt, yeah. So when you hear stories like that, you also look at other stories and you go, oh, are they allowed to tell those stories? So they are.
They are. I mean, here's the thing though. Look, people have these perceptions of Malaysians or Malaysia that, oh, it's you cannot do this, you cannot. Seriously, nobody cares. Nobody cares if whatever you do, it's between you and whoever you report to. If it's God, then it's
no,
God.
but I'm talking about it's between you and probably 1 million other people if it's in the media industry.
Yeah.
So is it like in our culture and in Hollywood and stuff, who's financing those projects?
True. If the company is more open to the idea, and why are you telling this story? If the story is important, if let's say, I think the first few drag queen or like gay character got introduced in Malaysia, it was through comedy. So through comedy, you soften the blow in a way, and then it got a little bit accepted.
It's I mean, comedy going all the way back to I'm gonna be murdered if I get this name wrong. Aristophanes, I think it was. He did comedy back in ancient Greece, but he was the only person through comedy that could really pick holes at the leaders of the government. You know, like so if Greece did something, or at the time it wasn't Greece, but if they did something completely wrong, Aristophanes could come in with a play that could show that to everybody. But it was accepted because it was through comedy. But yeah, everyone know he's pointing fingers at that person for doing this. So it hasn't changed really with comedy. Yeah. Now, speaking of, do you have a lot of romantic dramas in Malaysia?
Of course. It's all about romantic drama.
Okay. This is I'm going to ask you this. Now, yes, South Korea do good romantic dramas, right? But sometimes they just, it reminds me of 80s Hollywood. It reminds me of a Pixar Hollywood sort of romantic drama. Like everything is so overly done. They're very sweet stories, but I don't think that reflects what the culture is now. I think it's what people would love it to be. You know, how do you know what I'm saying? It's like
I call it the rose-colored glass or sunglass. You know, when
everything is
pretty
and you know the ugly duckling then comes forth and gets with the guy she's always wanted that everyone else is jealous with, you know, and in the workplace and mix in a bit of politics with that, societal differences between the rich and the poor and then put a bunch of media people in there with the cameras. And then, you know, I thought, oh, that's just what's making money, right? And while I was in France, I saw this film on Netflix called, I think it was a series called Let's Talk About Chu, a Taiwanese film. Man, that was good.
Really?
Yeah. That was about a family and the love relationships the kids and the parents had. But they were doing things that I thought would never be done but Taiwan's very different, right? And I thought that's what the relationships are like now. Like they've hit the nail on the head with that, you know. And I'm thinking only of Korea, and I'm sure they do. It's just the films we get in Australia.
Yeah.
Because depending on what our Netflix show over here, depending on what they show there.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen a really, I think the Koreans do the best crime dramas.
Oh.
Like I think their crime dramas are a step up above Americans at the moment and Europe.
Yeah.
Jocelyn still loves some of the Eastern European series like that they do over there. But the Koreans do fantastic when it comes to crime dramas.
Yep.
But I just think, you know, with their romantic dramas, I think is there a bit more gritty realness to the dramas that they can do? Because every time now you see a romantic drama, it will be, the same format. And it's almost like what you were saying. They're producing the same format. You know, now they're going more supernatural, like a demon comes to earth and falls in love with that could, you know, save him or whatever. What's it like in Malaysia when it comes to romance and is there such things as PDA over there, public displays of affection?
Yeah, we don't even hold hand in Malaysia. No,
are you joking? I thought, really? Yeah.
I would say even in the context of TV, like there's no kissing. You can't kiss anywhere.
Oh.
You cannot.
Hang on. Okay.
No kissing on TV. Or cheeks out the window.
So no kissing on the
face, not lips, not hugging, nothing.
And is there a rule that comes down for that, or is it just an unspoken thing?
I think it's unspoken because we don't actually show affection even in our society. Like a lot of the time, I feel people don't really show that publicly. But even in TV, here's the thing. At one point in Malaysia television, a lot of people start wearing the hijab. Okay, it's like before 2000 and I think 2005, 2010, people start a lot more celebrities and actors put on the hijab. So how are they gonna act if there is a scene where it's in the house? They're not gonna take off the hijab. They're still gonna, but it's not normal. It's not natural. The first thing I do.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So when the character is in their own home, normally you won't wear the hijab in the house when there's not visitors there.
Yeah.
But because they're actors that have taken on,
they're human. They're the actual person.
The person is like, I'm going to wear the hijab.
Yeah.
Even in character, they won't take it off. Yeah. Wow, really?
The first thing, if people don't know this, the first thing any hijabi do, the moment they enter their house, is like,
yeah.
That's the first thing I would do. I will take off my hijab first, right? So with characters,
getting tangled in that.
Yeah. With characters who the real actors put on the hijab and they cannot hold hands, nothing like that. Malaysian filmmakers have become a little bit creative, I think. Like I remember there's this one scene in a drama that they were doing. They call it a halal gap.
Halal gap. What's that?
It's like a gap between a woman and a man if they feel romantically towards each other, but they don't want to touch each other, and then they still want to go and see a movie or go to the cinema or go out on a dinner. Instead of holding hand, they hold on a bag, like the handle of the bag.
Oh, really?
So like that's how subtext showing, the filmmakers is showing like, oh, they're romantically involved with each other.
Do you think there's an underground in Malaysia where people are able to date freely?
People date freely. It's just the fact that we don't show it on TV. People, I don't know anyone, any of my friends who feel like, oh, I have to stop doing something because, you know, I'm a Muslim or whatever. I think
Sure.
they took on that responsibility of whatever that they decide
Sure.
to do. And a lot of my friends,
On set, it would make the job of the hairstylist a lot easier, wouldn't it?
yeah. But you do have hijab
Stylists.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so things like that, like there's no kissing, you can't. So showing affection itself on screen is you need to be creative on how to show it. And I think me as a I think that a lot of the time how I learn and finding my own voice in storytelling, like I always see that you don't need to show that you love someone by kissing them or hugging them or whatever it is. You know, there's other means to do it. And I remember this when you were saying that it's
The
not
most powerful moment is before the kiss.
There you go. It's the
Yeah.
the anticipation rather than the kiss itself.
Yeah.
You know, so
But, you know, all that anticipation without the reward at the end can be a little frustrating. There was a saying about that, but yeah, I won't say it here. Oh, okay. So it's not necessarily Ain's going to go back as this rebel director and do like a Requiem for a Dream Malaysian style.
no.
What about drug taking
Oh no.
on film, on television?
Yeah, there's there's always a character, Muslim character that drinks and do drugs. It's a social issue, and then there is story that people tell, and you know, a lot of the time. Here's the thing, like if you want to do something like that, you have to have a good reason. What is the teaching?
Sure.
What is the you know, what will this help with the society? Is it gonna teach them something?
Yeah.
You know, so a lot of the time it's always like, it's like a parents, if you see like Asian parents, like, I tell you not to do this and then you do this, see what happened. So a lot of the time TV is like that.
So what's the problem with kissing then? Isn't that a beautiful thing? Why wouldn't you share that with people? Or is it because you were talking about the hijab and the actors. Is it because the actors themselves, according to faith, don't want to kiss somebody else, even in character? Like I'm a naive guy here, just asking questions. Especially within the TV world, I can ask my friends here about things, but not. Oh, hang on a second. In TV, we shouldn't do this in Malaysia because of this. I understand with drug taking, if it's a societal problem that you're trying to identify, and with that, you can also teach kids, see what happens if you do that. This is what happens in this show.
Yeah.
But kissing, I don't get. Is it because of the actors themselves? Is it something to do with their faith that they can't kiss on screen, or is it something that they just don't want to show? I don't know. I find it weird that in America, when a guy has a full frontal, it's a huge thing, but yet they can show someone getting their head blown off. You see? So I find that weird. I find cultural, I find them interesting, not weird. It's like Japan. Can't show cleavage, but you can wear short skirts that show your knickers. I don't get it. I don't get that, you know, and yet girls on the streets can wear such short skirts, but don't ever show cleavage. So I'm thinking, okay, so it's a cultural thing there.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to grasp here with Malaysia, because I don't know when it comes to the media industry why affection is shunned away from, but yet you can show drugs, you know.
I have a feeling that there's a rule for you to like the censorship of the country itself.
Okay. So we got to look into that, because that it could be coming down from that. Okay.
I never actually look into it, but it's just something that we never put on. Even if the two characters are not Muslim. The Muslim one, I mean, it's self-explanatory.
Yeah,
it's easy, you know, you understand that, you know, it was supposed to be touching each other, you know, but
yeah, we've got the halal gap.
Halal gap.
I've learned something today. Yeah, okay.
But even if it's, let's say the actors is Chinese and the girl is Indian, even culturally, it is frowned upon. And I think I'm not sure religiously or whatever it is, but even for
How interesting. So is that movies as well or just television?
everything,
Oh, okay.
magazine
Now,
included,
what about an international film that comes there?
it's not our culture. Like I said, this is like the window shopping.
Oh, so it doesn't matter.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's a bit disappointing.
Yes. Because it's you who are doing it, not us.
Do you know, I'm not going to mention names here, but I was talking to someone who worked in Malaysia. He's Australian and he's a 6'2" gay guy doing very well for himself. His work's over there. I was wanting to know, like, well, hang on a second, like how was it? Was it okay for you to be in Malaysia for 2 years and be openly gay? Did you get any like blowback from that? He said, in a weird way, no, because I'm an expat. I'm coming from another culture. So people would serve him on hand and foot when he went into a restaurant. You know, he was a rich guy from a Western country that came there, totally accepted, but not from the locals.
No.
So it brings back what we were just saying about the movies. It's accepted because it's from another culture. Yeah. How interesting, hey? It's a bit weird. It's a bit disappointing too, because I would expect them to go, well, no, we're just going to censor whatever film comes in.
It used to be like that.
I'm glad it's not, you know, because at least the people there, because you're not stupid. You're going to go with a VPN and look at all this stuff anyway. I don't think they can keep that from people, but it would have been understandable if they banned it all.
Yeah. I think at one point they realized that there's a lot. I think maybe because how we grew up with it, with such restriction on storytelling, that we become a little bit stagnant when it comes to storytelling.
Yeah, well, you're working already within boundaries, right? Instead of working in a clear space.
Yeah, but like I said,
but you learn how to do it.
Yeah, you learn how to do it. You are a creative. Then create.
Yeah,
you create things.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
You can always show affection other ways.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah, rather than hugging or kissing someone or whatever it may be. Hugging? No, I don't think so.
You didn't mention hugging before. Really?
I think so.
I thought because you're quite a huggy person, Ain.
Shut
You are.
I am.
Is that because of an Australian influence that you've been here now 5 years?
110%. I was not do not touch me. I literally.
When you first came here?
30 years old. Ain from day 1 to 30 years old. I do not touch me. Do not come close to me. Not that I'm a close up person. It's just that personal space.
Well, it's a cultural thing.
Oh, it's a cultural thing that I become my personality. And then when I first came here, you know, I of course I have my dad. My dad, I think the only guy that I was hugging before when I was like,
yeah, sure, your dad.
My dad. That's it. I hardly even talk to my brother. So you know, we don't really whatever. We love each other very much.
But it's not. You're not just talking about your family. You're talking about culturally as a whole. It's not a hugging culture.
No.
Okay.
My dad's side of the family probably hug more than the rest of the whole of Malaysia, I would say.
Oh.
My mom's side, nah. It's very.
Why? Why are you your dad's side?
I think my dad is a huggy person.
Oh, so it's not a cultural thing. It really is the discretion of the family.
Yeah. So, but my mom's side is like very personal space, very whatever. And my dad is like, oh, you know, I hug my sisters and whatever.
Oh, okay.
And then that become a little bit more acceptable, you know, for me to like hug my aunties, my uncle or whatever it may be. But it's also still within the family. You know, I wouldn't go out and hug my coworker. Even at one point, I feel like I become more open to the idea of like hugging another person out of affection, but I still feel like, you know,
it's something left for behind closed doors. Sort of that sort of a thing. I'm relating it to what I heard about Korea, South Korea, in a completely different way. Like Japan, not It's not a cultural thing to hug.
Mm-mm.
I hear about people talking about it all the time on some of these YouTube channels, like Asian Boss and things. It's not a cultural thing to hug someone. All right. But I also know that an English girl that spent 5 years in Korea, she found it very hard to go back to England and not bow to people. Like the taxi driver, she'd get out of the car and bow and all her friends would laugh because it was a cultural thing that you did. So I was interested with you, like you came here, you weren't like that, and Australia made you or reminded you of your father's family where you would hug each other and say hello. Because I know we do. And I know a lot of the students and a lot of friends and stuff, I'll always, I mean, even if they weren't, after the podcast, whoever sits here after the podcast, they'll always give me a hug and say goodbye. So it is a cultural thing in Australia. And did you find that you took that back with you? And you forgot about it a bit, like the lady bowing in England coming out of Korea?
What we do back home is in a Malay culture that we would kiss hands for like elderly. If let's say I go back
is that
home
right?
and I see my mom, I will kiss her on the her
That's
hand,
nice.
and then whoever younger than me will kiss my hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then hug, of course.
Hug, of course.
Yeah, and then after that we will hug and kiss on the cheek.
Okay.
But it's still within family.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
People still do it, I would say. I wouldn't say that nobody hug anyone in
No,
Malaysia,
but
of course.
what about you when you went back? Were there certain habits you took from Australia back there and then people reminded you, oh God, Ain, that's so Aussie, because you were here, you've been here a while now. Like I consider you more Australian than Malaysian, except when it comes to your cooking. No, but was there any habits you took back? Like, did you suddenly go up to a friend and got a hug and went, oh, hang on, I'm not in Australia?
I always feel like I do not have the Australian accent, and I try not to have them.
You try not to.
I will consciously think like, please do not have that accent.
But you do. You got a stronger accent now than when you came. Like you said something to me the other day, and I was just like shit yeah or something. I was like, oh, you're going here, shit yeah. Did that come from your mouth? That sounded more Australian than me. But, so besides that, besides the accent, the hugging, was there any other very cultural differences?
I become very outspoken.
In Australia?
In Malaysia. I mean, like how I somehow felt like I found my voice here creatively.
Oh, okay.
So when I go back home, when I do my creative stuff, I always feel like it's what I've learned and what I've done. And through the experience, I'm more confident in like, oh, this is my idea, I'm more open. Like I would definitely write something personal and make money out of it rather than, the first day you met me, like I wouldn't put any, and I felt like you were like, I don't care, this story have to be personal, and I pick one story that is so personal and I wouldn't want to tell anyone, and I decided to write that on paper and then give it to you, and you couldn't shut up about it. And then somehow that whole exercise and you picking on me,
I found it a challenge, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Why I loved having international students is because they brought their culture into the classroom. And I love that. I love learning more about Argentina, Colombia, Brazil, Iraq, Malaysia. And I love that. And it's about seeing what they could bring in their stories. In a selfish way, as a lecturer, we're also wanting unique stories.
Yeah.
We're not wanting the same story over and over, hoping that this little influence of flavor is injected in a story into something we haven't seen before.
Yeah.
With Asian students, I find I love the challenge of actually getting them to open up within the words of the page and hoping that words of the page and giving them the techniques to then translate that through visual techniques. So for me, you were a challenge because I knew where you were coming from. I've had that before with other Asian students, but not a woman. I've had it with guys, and guys were a lot easier. Like they would be like, oh, I would push them, and I would build a theme around something. I'd say, okay, let's explore that. But as a woman who didn't even know me at the time, I found that to be a challenge. I said, okay, if she can open up with this, then that's a start to bigger things that she can then explore. It's also therapy. It's therapeutic, right? For someone that's held in something all their life. And so when you said to me you were going back to Malaysia to hopefully teach and plant these seeds, I thought, well, that's a good thing. That's a good way of changing storytelling.
Yeah, because when I was a kid, I was afraid of like even telling my mom about like, oh my God, I like that boy from downstairs. You know, I don't know how to tell this to my mom, and I somehow the butterfly of opposite attraction, I relate that back to being scared, being traumatized, being, you know, it's a negative thing rather than a positive thing. So the first attraction with another boy wasn't fun for me because I'm like, what the fuck is this feeling, you know? So, and then somehow I picked that story to tell because the moment you keep picking on me, I felt like, oh, it's less embarrassed now. So anything else after that is nothing. So I tell better story after I break that.
Sure.
I was like, who cares? Like, who gonna watch this? Nobody.
Now, did your people close to you in Malaysia when you went back? Did they notice these differences? Oh, Ain's quite outspoken. She's a bit. What were the differences that your mother picked up, or some of your friends, or did they tell you?
I don't think anybody have told me. They know. I think there's a vibe that I pick up. Like, oh my God, she's so different. I don't know how to approach her, but I just leave her alone because Malaysian. Instead of we talk about our feelings, we avoid them. Because we are not the type of people who lay everything on the table and then talk about it. Like, let's say if I have an issue with a friend, we wouldn't sit and talk about it because one of us probably not going to be able to handle it. So we just leave it.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I hope good things. I hope my change is good because I definitely feel like being an Australian studying have grown me as a person. Like I'm not so attached so much to the idea of who I was. You know, I was letting it go. I always wanted to become a person who's inspire other people and people then can inspire me.
Isn't that funny? And film was a vehicle. You know, I'm listening to this now going, it probably was never about the art of filmmaking.
No.
For the reason why you came here.
Yeah.
The reason was for film, but looking and being reflective on that now in a retrospective way. I needed to come here in order to change who I was. And the way I did that was through studying this course and these courses that I've done. And, you know, certain people may not approach you back in Malaysia. It's not that because you're different, is some people find there's a quiet confidence can be quite intimidating. You know, there's a person that is quite strong, opinionated, now willing to share that opinion. People can find that, especially guys, can find that quite intimidating, especially the one I'm talking about in a Malaysian culture, which is a good thing, right?
Well, it also means that it's harder for me to score a job because if people keep looking at me as someone, oh, she's too
But you got to
much.
play it smart, though, ain't you? You don't do that at the interview. You got to be the wolf in sheep's clothing. The sheep's clothing is the interview. Once you get in, you can start changing, but you don't know whether you're going to go that way or set your school up and teach.
I want to set my school up and teach because I also felt the freedom of no longer being part of the rat race. Asian country, it's all about the rat race.
Yeah,
You are
don't know it.
You are in the circle, keep doing it, you know, over and over again. And then the moment I was out, I was like studying, and then I worked 3 different jobs, you know, here in Australia. And then same thing with uni. And then when I went back for that short period of time, I work on one feature film. So it was also, I had this job for like a year for the drama series, and then I went into filmmaking. So I learned different things.
Yeah.
You know?
And how different people work.
Yeah. It's like,
what's the difference between the work ethics? really quickly, you don't have to go into detail, but working on a crew in Malaysia, working on a crew here, what's the difference?
I blame it on the weather.
Weather. What weather? Australian weather?
Like I said, it's people are so cranky back home. It's because the fact that it's hot and it's tiring.
Oh, okay.
And I always say that filmmaking is hard. It's hard work, and you're uncomfortable. You're always like in the dune or like at the beach, or it's hot, it's humid. So tell better story. Don't waste your energy on something that is mediocre. And a lot of the time, because we are so tired that we just
So you think it's the weather, the humidity? Because, that would be hard with 90% humidity.
Yeah, and you know how it is to be on film set. It is uncomfortable. You're always tired. You deprived from sleep. So if you want to tell story, make it worth it, you know? And
sure.
I think work ethic wise, I hope that it's gotten better. Sometimes it's a thing, because the fact that we suppress our feelings and we are not so open book, that we bottle up our emotions. So let's say if an issue arises, we're like, oh, let it go. And the moment you get angry, it's like, bah.
And it comes from a multiple of things rather than what actually happened.
Yeah. So let's say if you're...
See, that's not even healthy in relationships. Well, you think about it, right?
True.
You'd hope that that culture wouldn't trickle down to the actual intimate relationships behind closed doors, which I don't think it would.
Yeah.
I think it's more of a in public. This is a public thing. Like you said, behind closed doors, I think the relationships would be very different.
Yeah. Like I said, on like film set, if let's say you're working for 20 days, by the time you hit your 15 days, it's done for. People are tired. People are not willing to do above and beyond for you. So I always say, if you want to tell a story and if you want to drag all this village of people to make this film for you, please tell better story. Put a little bit more passion
and time to development.
Yes.
Right?
Really sit and write good stories, you know.
Is it a development thing? Like they don't put enough time in development of a story?
I would say it's definitely the fast turnaround. In Malaysia, it's always quantity instead of quality.
And you're going back there to work? I don't need to. Oh, Ain, how could you say that about your own industry, that you're going back to try and get a job in?
I'm gonna get cancelled.
No, but at least you're honest, right?
Which that's the problem though. Like I'm not trying to penalize people or judge them for the choices that they make, but you don't need 6 different channels. You don't need 50 dramas in a year. You don't.
Wow. Is that how much they turn around?
It is, yeah. That's the problem.
Are you talking about series or just like feature dramas?
Drama series. Like
drama series.
With the company that I was working for, the one that I'm familiar with, there's at the very least 3 Malay dramas. 3 Malay channels. Okay, one for comedy, one for younger people, and one for older people. Okay, fine, whatever. It's demographics. Why can't you just have 1 channel or 2 channels that are actually packed with good stuff, rather than having...
Oh, I see what you're getting at. So what you're saying is bring the production down, have less channels, but put more time into each product. Okay. So having more channels, they just need to fill those channels with as much stuff as they can.
The moment you open a new channel, there's 24-hour slot that you need to fill. So that's 24 hours of live programs or recorded or whatever it may be. But that's 24 hours.
Sure.
Take out your commercial. That's going to be 21 hours. But still, it's a lot of half an hour program.
Which means a lot of work, right?
Exactly. So work is always available. But what type of work are you getting yourself into? I, unfortunately, at this level, because I'm older.
Make that distinction. Yeah.
I do not have the energy when I was working in TV. I do not have the energy when I was 20. So when I pick a job, I'm like, are you going to make it better for me or are you not? So are you going to help me in my career? Or is this film that I'm going to be proud of? Or are you not?
Did you think this way before you came to Australia?
No. It was just money.
So it's no, but it's an influence thing then, right?
Yeah.
Because I know here you've got to go through.
Wait, sorry, give me 2 seconds.
Is that your mum?
No, my friend. I think.
See, everyone, this is how Malaysians do podcasts. How professional. No, so because I know here it's a very disciplined
Industry.
well, not just that, yeah, but every shot is thought about and mulled over and talked about. And so before you even push record, there comes a whole thing with that. And there was a discipline you went through here that obviously when you went back there and everything was just like a train going by all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And then not much thought being put into why certain shots were taken. It must have two different culturally different things. So you actually saw a better way of doing something.
Yeah, but they wouldn't.
No one listened, yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Unless they don't have time to.
They don't have time to, and they probably change is always something. I think people like comfort. They don't like to go out of their way to like listen to this or whatever. But yeah, I feel like here, even short film, it is the director and the DP will sit and talk about every single thing, every single lighting, everything. We will talk about everything. And then when we go on location, we will have rehearsal after rehearsal.
But that's a film. You're talking about TV in Malaysia. What about the films there? Would that be different?
No. I mean, at least the one that I went into, I felt like it was rushed.
Okay. And that wasn't a small film. That was a film for Netflix, right?
Yeah.
So it is a thing. Okay.
I don't know. I just feel like we need to put more time into development and actually take your time. You know, you don't rush a creative.
Yeah, sure.
I would rather there is money because if you can produce this much volume, you can downsize them and then make it better. Rather than because it helps your industry as well. Because if you keep doing what you are doing, you're not gonna break that circle of outside from Malaysia. Because people are gonna have this, Malaysia's film is, it's not Netflix quality, or it's not this, or it's not that. There is no rating outside from Malaysia. And people in Malaysia is just like, oh, this is what they're giving us. We're not gonna complain. We're gonna watch. Very content people. I always call.
But you guys have got streaming channels there. You've got Netflix and all of that in Malaysia.
Yeah.
So it's like those who don't have that will watch the free-to-air stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
But here's the thing. I remember when I was doing all the concerts in 2005, 2006, we have so many subscribers. And then now it's like a smaller I think it's half of the people are not even subscribed to the pay TV anymore, because there's Netflix, there's other things.
Yeah, it's competition.
But here's the thing, even with that competition, right, when you see other people, it's not just because of the web media thing. Web media is web media, because before Netflix, we could literally watch anything online anyway. There's YouTube, there's other things, right? It's always has been not good enough quality in TV, in dramas, because all of us were stopping watching TV when Netflix came in, but then Game of Thrones came in. People start watching TV again. People were like, oh, I'm done for, I'm not gonna wait every Sunday at 8 p.m. I'm not gonna do that anymore. I'm not gonna, But then
it's funny, isn't it? It still always comes back to story.
If it's good story, people will wait.
Yeah, my a guy, a producer I knew in Sydney, he used to say to my wife, if you've got a good story, people will pay to see it. It always comes back to the story. And telling a gripping story that is Malaysian, that can also be taken in by the world, the rest of the world, and enjoy it. Like, what was the Korean film that won Best Director, Best Film at the Academy Awards years back? The Korean guy got Best Director as well. What is that film called? It's a fantastic film. You know the one I'm talking about,
Yeah,
right?
I do.
Mm. And suddenly here's a very Korean film about Korean society, a reflection on Korean society. And yet it also affected and it was entertained by the rest of the world. And the rest of the world gravitated and loved that film too.
Yeah.
That's what you guys need in Malaysia. And Malaysia's got some great cultural, like I remember reading about some of the cultural, like spooky stuff that happened there, by police officers' testimonials. And I'm like, God, that'd be so cool to do. But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, slowly, small steps.
Yeah, there is good things, but sometimes I feel like we don't promote enough good things. I don't know.
Oh, what are the food channels they like?
Uh,
Can we do one? Malaysian food. Oh my God. I would move there to do a TV show on food. Surely you've got some.
Yeah, of course.
Oh,
We
okay.
have a lot. We have plenty.
Damn it.
It's everywhere, even on social media. Like all the influencer, if you think in Western culture, the influencer is like people who go to gym, people who dance, in Malaysia, our influencer is chef.
Yeah.
Everyone cooks.
Yeah.
Everyone just sit there and talk about cooking and eating and
Oh, it's a cultural thing, isn't it?
And here's another thing. I never understood why we are so rich in like cooking and food, and we literally show love through food. I have never seen, or not many, drama or film
series
or whatever that revolve around food. And if it did, it wasn't shot well.
Yeah.
It wasn't shot well enough for me to want to eat that food.
Yeah.
Every single time I watch a drama series from Korea at night,
You get hungry.
I get hungry.
Yeah.
I want a ramen. Right now, I don't care.
Oh my God. You can't watch any series without them talking about food all the time.
Exactly.
Do you know what other culture makes brilliant films? And speaking of food, Thailand. I saw one recently on a woman that was helping her father out making food, and she gets into this famous cooking school that is number one. It's very hard to get in, but it was done so well, Ain. And and the girl in it, I remember seeing her in a film called Bad Genius. True story about how they swindled the education system in Thailand. One girl did it, and it was brilliant. And I remember looking at this young girl going, this girl can act. Like I'm reading subtitles. This girl can act because I'm seeing the face, and she's now huge, and she's acted in this recent one. Brilliant. I'll get that for you. But yeah, you need to. Malaysia's got such a rich, beautiful, I mean, you've got Chinese, Malay, Indian, all these beautiful food cultures in there. No wonder why it's popular there. Got to do a good drama on food.
Yeah.
All right, Ain, that's your next job. Not me, but I'll let you take the reins on that. So what's next for Ain?
I don't know.
You're going to be here for a while.
Graduate, I guess. I do really want to finish my
PhD. But you don't have to be in Australia for that, right?
I don't necessarily need to be.
Yeah.
But
depending on what you do.
Yeah, I want to finish. But here's the thing, though.
I mean, can you study here, your PhD?
Yeah.
But a lot of your PhD is off. Like, there's not much contact, right?
Yeah.
So surely you can go back to Malaysia and still work on your PhD. That's interesting.
That's the best thing. I always feel like studying take a lot of time of me going to classes, and sometimes the subject that they were teaching me, like, I already know this, like, shut up, next, boring, snooze, but the best thing about like honor and PhD, it's literally what you want to do.
Yeah.
So I want to go into web media and web series and things like that, and because it's relatively new, so it's just about me and my research. So it's me.
Sure.
Half of it is writing, half of it is my creative work. So I don't have to write much. I don't have to write like 80,000 for people who do PhD usually. It's like half of it. Because about half of it you have to at least produce whatever.
Have you heard much about this Sora AI?
No.
Where you type in a phrase and it will create the visuals for you.
Oh my God.
I heard this guy in America, a black guy, I forget his name. very wealthy in television, was in the works to start an $800 million studio on the west coast of. He cancelled it when Singh saw AI. He was that nervous. He said, "This is going to change everything." Once we leave here, I'll show you. But that's scary.
It is.
That's scary because he didn't see where it is now. He saw it where it would be in 5 years. And when you're investing $800 million into a studio, and then he cancelled it because he saw where this was going, I'm thinking, how's that going to affect the industry?
Yeah.
Because you know what? Filmmakers then will be the writers.
Yeah.
The writers will write it, push it through.
There is this, last semester, I can't remember when. So I had writing class. So there's two lecturers. There's one a little older and more traditional, I would say. And another one is like younger, more hip, had a lot of fun in his class. He was saying, I understand that university won't allow you to use AI, but you as a writer, please well equip yourself with AI, because you are going to be writers that write with AI rather than afraid of AI, because it's going to be like that anyway.
True.
That's
a good lecturer because he's being a realist.
Yeah. He understands what the industry want right now, and this is what it's going to be. So I don't want you to go out and I'm a traditional writer who have all my cue cards, all my 3 act or whatever it is. You do not need to do that anymore. Your job is to tell story, but spit it all out.
Use it. Use what you got.
Yeah.
I think that's what people, you can't stop it.
Yeah.
You can't stop it. You've just got to utilize it and how to tell the better stories in that way. But it just came to mind. I was thinking about that's going to change, something to maybe look at with your PhD.
Yeah.
The advent of AI and creative storytelling could be a very interesting subject in that. Who knows? Anyway, it's great to finally have you on. And I see it went really quickly, right? And, maybe come back after or during your PhD and we can talk about what you've learned and things like that. We can talk about your dating life here in Australia.
Damn.
As opposed to, and what I'm really surprised with this podcast, there was no swearing. Normally I cannot not hear you swear, and you've been really politically correct, Ain. I'm quite proud of you.
Thank you.
Bit disappointed, but proud. Okay, catch you later.